Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be my first impressions of the Halo Infinite campaign, sort of a quick review and first impressions right here at the beginning of the video. I am then going to be jumping in and doing more campaign gameplay. So if you're looking for that, welcome to watch. This will be a spoiler-free first impressions as well. No spoilers contained in these first impressions, and I will be doing a live redirect to bring over people from the other stream and video that we did. This is an SNTR update. Halo Infinite campaign is now live and out in the wild, and people are coming over and playing it after reading the reviews of those who got to play it as a media piece and the embargoes dropped. I myself put in about 2 hours of gameplay yesterday and want to give you my overarching first impressions on the combat, the story, the graphics, and the review scores. So first and foremost, let's just talk about the combat. Now, the combat touches down on general gameplay as well. So I want to touch on combat and just the basic gameplay in the game in the first couple of hours of Halo Infinite's campaign. First and foremost, the combat is crisp and very, very good. It feels excellent to use all of the different weapon types. I didn't have any issues with the combat feeling weird. Now, I will say the grapple is a significant piece to the game's combat, with feeling a sense of agility and movement as well as verticality. I do think some of the physics and the weight behind the grapple can be a little bit irritating, and the grappling up and trying to mantle can be a little irritating and inconsistent. Overall, though, I think the grapple, the weapons, and the enemies create a very, very fun combat environment. I am playing it on normal. I hear going up one difficulty from normal is very enjoyable and challenging. I didn't want to do that for my gameplay because I'm attempting to move through the game at a pretty quick clip to give people a lot of views on the actual game. I don't want somebody only getting like a couple of, sections of the game. Now, the story. The story is not bad. I actually think it's quite good. I enjoyed how they opened it up. There is a significant span of time that has happened, no spoilers, and the way that they sort of walked that out and had time transpire, I thought was very creative and a little bit touching. I think the voice acting is very good. I still think Master Chief is difficult to make interesting as a character. I think that's a challenge. He is very much the cliche sort of 90s, tough brute, man of few words. But I actually think they do a good job with him in the game, with some comedy, little bits and pieces here of a little bit of comedy and confidence and toughness. I think it's a pretty good blend, and probably about as good as they could do with what is a pretty two-dimensional character. That's not shade. I'm not slamming him. I just think he's not that interesting, and it's tough to make him interesting given everything that's happened and how he's sort of meant to be represented in the game. Now, the graphics. Undeniably, in the cutscenes, the graphics look very, very good, even a little next-gen. I wouldn't give it the full next-gen stamp of approval. Looking at games like Forza and, Returnal and Ratchet and Clank, I don't necessarily think Halo Infinite rises to the level of being a truly next-gen experience, but the cutscenes come awfully close. And the combat, I'm playing on the Xbox Series X, has a lot going on, and I feel like it maintains pretty good frames and fidelity in those moments. There are some issues I have noticed in the larger, more open world areas where the frames struggle to maintain consistent, and that is disappointing given that this thing should be incredibly optimized for the Xbox Series X. I saw issues with PC as well in some of the cutscenes in more open areas, dropping into the 40s and 50s. That seems pretty inexcusable given how far we've come and how long this has been in development. Overall, the graphics are not bad. I find them to be good, like pretty much the entire game. This has to do with the review scores. Even after 2 hours, I still can't fathom giving this game a 9 or a 10. I've not played anything that feels like a 9 or a 10, which are, in my mind, near perfect to stellar scores. These are supposed to be masterpieces that are given 9s and 10s that are then enthusiastically recommended. I'm simply not seeing that in the first 2 hours, which you would kind of expect that to be where that tone is set. I see a very solid game, 7.5 to maybe an 8. Not much higher than that, which deserves to be played and deserves to be recommended. So if you like these SNTR updates, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next one. And I'll see the rest of you right now. Curious what you guys think about my take before we jump back in. I think the game is good. I didn't find myself really disagreeing with anything that I heard from people like SkillUp and the other reviews that I read. I thought that it's fine. There's nothing about it that is earth-shattering. There's nothing about it that I feel is industry disrupting or ambitious. It is just a very, very good Halo game. I didn't even touch on the one glitch that I had because I didn't think it was worth noting. It was pretty minor, and I would consider it to probably be an edge case. Like, how many people are going to fall where I fell and have what happened happen? It's probably pretty unlikely. It's hard to, quality test for what happened to me in that moment when I fell and then had like a bad checkpoint system. Now, people were telling me that the older Halos would keep pushing your checkpoint back further and further, which would have protected me from that, but didn't seem to happen. Make sure and switch to live chat, and make sure and smash the like button since we are in a new stream, and that helps you see everyone's chat messages, and it also ensures that we get the video into a good spot with likes and dislikes and all of that. Well, we want to make sure we get those quick interactions as soon as the stream is up. Did you get to the open world yet? I think I'm about to venture into the open world. She just like showed me the map and all the different things we could like go and do. So that was that is that we're gonna step out into that today. I'm assuming. So I would bet that that's where we're gonna end up. Now, I've been told that quick resume is bad because you may end up getting into the game and being like, wait a minute, what the frick? Like, I'm not online. Now, there are things out in the world, there are cosmetics and things that you can find, but you won't necessarily be quote unquote online. And so I have been told that you're supposed to check that some way. And yeah, I need to restart the game because it's showing me as offline. I don't know how to do that. If you force quit the game, will it bring it back up and not quick resume? Is that how you do it? Yeah, it didn't quick resume this time. Yeah, I've been told there's like cosmetics and things you can discover out in the wild of your single player playthrough, but you want to make sure that you are quote unquote online when you do that. So I like the more seamless transition between cutscenes and gameplay. It's very stellar. Yeah, it is. It is. They get credit for that. I think they did a very, very good time with it. A very, very good job with it. Hey there. Thanks so much for signing up to co-stream the Game Awards. You have been approved as a co-streamer. Here is your official kit. Oh, I got like a co-streamer kit, including social media badges, stream overlays, and more. Well, awesome. I'll have to take a look at that in between our streams. I went through their little application process to co-stream, and anybody can co-stream, but now I'm like one of the official co-streamers. That's cool. Just quit the game completely, start and quit. Yeah. That's unfortunate that you have to do that. Continue. All right, I'm loading the game up right now. My son said Halo Infinite feels more like Halo than 5 did. He's enjoying it so far. I haven't played the campaign yet. He does like the addition of the grapple. Yeah. Okay. Can we take a moment and laugh at the armor lockers only containing shaders? Yeah, I don't think that's a very good look. We can spend like maybe the first 20 or 30 minutes of this stream just sort of talking about the game and my first impressions if you have questions. My Halo Infinite campaign first impressions are largely good. They're good. Yeah, you'll see gameplay from me. We'll go to this scene here, like that. There you go. See? I got the game loaded up and ready to go right now. Great grapple, 10 out of 10. Yeah, the grapple is good. I like it. I think the grapple does a very, very good job. I think that it creates, like, I remember before the game came out, I was concerned with their dialogue about the grapple. They were saying that like they had put a lot of work into it and it was going to be really integral in making the game feel fresh and new. And I was like, my gosh, a grapple? Seriously? That's your big push. That's your big play. And so I thought, no, that can't be right. That just seems so minimal. And so then when you play, you see the reality. The grapple does, I think, a significantly good job expanding the combat while honoring where the combat has come from. You know what I'm saying? Like, the combat has to feel like Halo, but at the same time, they need it to feel like it's advanced. Like Halo Infinite gameplay, it can't feel dated, but it kind of has to feel dated. Does that make sense? It needs to grab enough from the traditional Halo feel. It needs to grab enough of that to feel recognizable and sort of honoring of the franchise, but it also has to be better and more advanced and more innovative than just more Halo. You see what I'm saying? It kind of has to land in the middle, where it's sort of borrowing from the old and honoring it, while trying to borrow from the new and honoring it as well. I think the grapple's the best in any game so far. I don't know. I've not played enough games with grapples. I think the grapple in Apex is pretty good. Something I noticed watching your playthrough compared to mine, you get comfortable with the grapple much quicker than I did. It took me much longer to stop moving like an old Halo game. That's possible. That like the more long-standing, more faithful, people, they may feel that they need to keep their feet, more boots on the ground. Yeah, I could see that. The biggest thing I saw yesterday was a very good-looking game playing like a game from 15 years ago. I don't know about that, Eugene. It didn't feel that way. It might look that way. I wonder if it looks that way because of the nature of just the slowness, right? It's slower, and so I'm just wondering if it doesn't translate well. Also, we need to get to the point where I get back on my old streaming rig so we can get the medium compression. Because right now, fast-moving stuff, even this game, it can get a little like fuzzy looking, almost like. So I think that is an issue. I think that they could potentially work on that. I could potentially work on that. It would make gameplay look a little bit smoother and a little bit better. So 100% the game looks sluggish, but when you play it, it feels incredible. Once I understood the verticality, I was flying up and down mountains. Yeah, I think the verticality, I think the added movement freedom that you get with the grapple, I think is very, very good. Sneak peek experiment, Creator Insider, collections for subs? What's that? Collections for subs? I'd be interested to know what that feature is. Let's see here. I got mentioned somewhere. And guys, speaking of Halo, this Friday night, so tomorrow night, I went into the Discord. I said, react to this with a thumbs up if you can play some Halo custom games this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've gotten 11 people to push the thumbs up. It'd be nice to see about 20 people who can play so we can have a good rotation. We really, really need a good rotation of folks. Level design, graphics, sandbox, sound. It's a great, great game. Remember to go to live chat. That's right. Remember to go to live chat. Hi, just hating the game. Looks great. Who's hating the game? 100% the game. Oh, never mind. The grappling hook looks like a natural addition to the game. I think it complements the environments well. Halo multiplayer people are found. Mongoose glitch turns into a mini vehicle. It's hilarious and fast to drive. Oh, really? Huh. The game looks incredible, feels incredible. It feels out of this world. Best Halo ever. I think fans of Halo are probably going to land on this being one of the best Halos. I don't know if they're going to say it's the best Halo. I think it's hard to compete with nostalgia. What time are you playing? Any minute now. I'll just roll over and start playing. We've been streaming this video for about 15 minutes. So I want to have time to take a good chunk out of the game today, and then we may not be able to come back to it. I don't know if we'll be able to do a full run. You saying I'm hating? Partially true. Oh. The challenge with Halo Infinite campaign gameplay is that people generally don't care, right? They're like, they either don't want to see it because they don't care, or they're a fan and they don't care because they want to experience it themselves. So it's tough to stream and make Halo campaign gameplay footage interesting, because you're either going to watch like the first 10 or 15 minutes just to see, and you're like, okay, cool, I'll check it out on my own. You know what I mean? If I was a Halo fan, I'd be stoked. Yeah. If you're a Halo fan, I think this game is very much a love letter to Halo fans. It might be a little crumpled and burned because I think it does have some things about it that are making Halo fans frustrated, more on the multiplayer side. But even in the single player side, the absence of co-op and the inability to reload missions, replay missions, I should say, I think that's a frustration point for people, you know. If Eugene liked Halo, I would worry. It's not for him. It's for reasonable people that like being happy about things. Gameplay-wise, it's on par with Reach, I would say, says Dark Taco. The game as a whole can't hold a candle to the old games. Yeah, I think it's really, really tough for Halo Infinite to compete with the old Halo games, just because you probably look back on those Halo games with thoughts and praise and ideas that, to a certain extent, aren't even, in line with the games as they exist. It's very nostalgically driven, very nostalgically driven, which is fine. It was a transformative game for you. It was a transformative time. That I think is an issue. Is it always, if you play something that is transformative, it changes your memory of it. Like the first time you played Call of Duty, the first time that you played Gears of War, the first time that you played a Halo, you know what I mean? Or one of the more praised Halos. It's transformative. It changes you. And something that changes you is far more memorable. And so I think we look back and we think on these games. I've gone back and played games that my memory of them is that they were incredible, and they aren't that incredible. They just aren't. They're fine. They're good. They're not bad. But they're not earth-shattering in the way that I remember them. They were earth-shattering at the time. Right? Like, yeah, the original Halo, or that's Combat Evolved, 97. I mean, it's people loved. It was a ambitious and pioneer time for games. Does Lono have an issue with Halo? Like, was never one of those people that played it? No, I've played it. I've played most of the Halos co-op with either a friend or a family member. It's just never been my cup of tea. So, but I can look at the game and be like, yeah, this is a good Halo. This is what people were wanting. But my issues with Halo have nothing to do with me not being a Halo fan. My issues with Halo are more about me speaking for those that are Halo fans that are disappointed. The absence of co-op, the absence of Forge, the absence of replaying missions, the absence of a Slayer playlist, the absence of SWAT, the fragmented nature of the store, the confusing nature of the store, the nickel and dime nature of the store, the incredibly slow progression on the battle pass. All of these criticisms I'm making as a gamer and a game commentator, not as someone who's like, well, I'm not a fan of Halo, so I'm going to bash it. I've never played Halo before, just started the open world section, and it's a good game, but definitely not 10 out of 10. You played it, but it never blew your socks off. I get it. That's what I'm hearing. I will say that when we played Halo PvP in the dorms, because we could literally plug the Xboxes into the Ethernet ports in the wall, and it created a network connection, that was amazing. That was new. that was like, oh wow, this is awesome and super duper fun. The social aspect of the game was in many ways, it was a pioneer game on consoles. But I cut my teeth in Quake 2, Quake 3, Unreal Tournament, and Call of Duty. So it was kind of like, this is dope, but it wasn't earth-shattering because it was like, y'all are late to the party. I've been doing this, for 5 or 6 years before Halo was doing it. Playing Capture the Flag Instagib on Facing Worlds in Unreal Tournament, or playing Unreal Tournament Onslaught, or Quake 3 Rocket Arena. I was playing Rise of the Triad over dial-up. I was playing games against other people with weapons and shooting well before I ever touched a Halo. So Halo wasn't that impressive. It was like, you guys this is late to the party and slow. It was big for console players to experience LAN parties. Yeah, all the guys that used to make fun of me and my friends for LAN parties were all about Halo gameplay. They were all about it. I mean, they dove headfirst in. You think review scores should be a measure of quality or a recommendation for purchase? Giant Bomb commented that if they are purchase recommendations, then they will soon be irrelevant. I think that is excellent commentary. Yes. If it's merely a purchase recommendation, then it's even more suspect. Wouldn't you rather get purchase recommendations from the public than someone that reviews the game for clicks? Imagine going to Amazon, and before a product is released, and you're able to pre-order a blender, and you're getting a bunch of reviews from appliance coverage media outlets, and that's all they're doing is reviewing the game and making a purchase recommendation, you would be immediately suspicious of that. You'd be like, well, wait a minute, you're in a good relationship with Amazon. Amazon's letting you review the product before the public can get their hands on it. It makes you relevant, gets you clicks, and establishes your brand. I don't need a purchase recommendation from you. I need to know if the product is good. So that's the issue. I think that's excellent commentary, that if all of these review outlets are just turning into 5 out of 5, definitely buy, if it's purchase recommendations, then yeah, it's just soon irrelevant. It's like, I don't need that. I can wait until the game launches and get a much better clue into whether or not I should purchase the game from the public. I trust 1,000 members of the public before I trust somebody writing for IGN. IGN isn't supposed to recommend whether I purchase it. It's supposed to say, we played it, here's where the good and the bad lie, here where the problems lie, here were the things that we thought were innovative and good. You're supposed to be an authority on games as a subject, not somebody recommending or not recommending purchase. That's why we look at Metacritic. And we look at the chasm of difference between what the Metacritic reviewers are saying and what the public is saying. Right? The public hasn't had a chance to have their review scores put on Metacritic for Halo Infinite. Not there. Same with PC. It's in the 80s. I went to YouTube to look at original Siphon Filter footage. It looked rough, but by the time it was the best game ever. We've come so far. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Oh, man. I remember playing Quake, Unreal Tournament, Duke Nukem, Doom, etc. on PC way before Halo. But something about Halo just captured me in a way other shooters couldn't. There is definitely a slowing down of the action, Sven, that some people appreciated because it felt more decision-based than spam-based. There were elements of Quake and Unreal Tournament that could get a little spammy. And when things are slowed down and you're slowly aiming and taking a snipe shot or whatever, it felt awesome. It's kind of like when you watch a really amazing sports play and then they slow it down and it looks even more impressive. There's an element of that, I think, in Halo that captured people. It was like, I'm able to really choose my shots, and killing an enemy player just feels very good. Instead of bam, 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 dead, bam, 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 dead. It's It's less of a meat grinder, and it's more, you feel like more of a tactician. I usually try to avoid reviews altogether until I complete the game, and then I look up to see what people are saying. Why is time spent a metric of the game's value? I would take 10 really good hours over 20 meh hours. Yeah, that gets overstated sometimes, Cole. Yep. Titanfall 2 is a pretty short campaign, but it's one of the best first-person shooter campaigns you can play. I can go play another game with a first-person shooter campaign that's twice the length of Titanfall 2. It's probably not as good. I've played plenty of campaigns longer than Titanfall, and they weren't nearly as memorable. What was it, Battlefield 5? That had really amazing narrative, character-driven campaign segments? Super memorable game, but it was a short campaign in comparison to other shooters at the time. The Doom campaign, not Doom Eternal, but the Doom before that one. Pretty short, I think, if I remember right. Not super duper long, but very memorable. I only look at the scores. I address that mentality in a video coming out tomorrow. I strongly disagree with Devin Nash's take on the removal of the dislike counter. This idea that like, oh, I need to be able to see the like to dislike ratio because if it's bad, I just automatically leave a video. It's just a ludicrous claim. Nobody does that. Now, they might do what you're doing, Jaggy. Like, ooh, I see a low score. Let me go see what's wrong. But if I see 10 10s in a row, that's suspicious as frick to me. Unless we know it's like an earth-shattering game. Like, when I was seeing 9s and 10s for Deathloop, I was like, huh? I hadn't even touched the game yet. I was like, that seems a little... Really? I didn't see anything that looked like it was going to be 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I didn't see anything that looked like it was going to be at that level. Now, when I started seeing high scores for Ratchet, I was like, oh yeah, from everything I've seen, that makes sense. Everything I saw, it made perfect sense. Disingenuous to dismiss it is not part of it too. Time is part of the value. Yeah, we don't need to dismiss and act like, well, if a game's short, it's totally okay. Like, if the Halo Infinite campaign was only 2 hours long, I think people would, like, justifiably be like, what? Like, that seems way too short to be good. I think there's a minimum, there's a floor you can't really go below. You need new computer speakers? Somebody's going to get pennies from Amazon? Thank you, Zubair. Play games that have gotten 5 and above, and I've loved them. I'll be interested to see if there's any games that got really bad review scores from the critics and then got really great review scores from the public. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing my Halo Infinite campaign first impressions, spoiler free. When I'm done kind of talking with you guys and eating a little bit of my lunch here, I will roll over into some gameplay. If you're not wanting to see gameplay, I'll give you plenty of warning. Terminator Resistance was one of those games. Asura's Wrath is one of my favorite low-scoring video games. Angry Joe gave it a 6 out of 10, but also a seal of approval, which I loved. Anch Aurora says, hey man, what's up? Hey, how are you? Welcome. Ten games that critics hated but the players loved on Metacritic. Deadpool, I remember that game. Earth Defense Force, Deadly Premonition, Nier, Speed Racer, Dynasty Warriors 8, Kirby Air Ride, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, Monster Hunter on the PlayStation 2, and The Saboteur. Let's see what the biggest divide was here. 7281, a 6888, a 6887, a 6681, a 6883, a 6980, a 6887. Yeah, it looks like the biggest divides are like 6/8s to 8s. Yeah. Yeah, or a 6-1 to a 7-2. Yeah. It's kind of hard to say the critics hated them. I mean, all those games getting like 6s and 7s, that's not necessarily hate. They just didn't give it a very high score. If you're just tuning in looking for Halo Infinite campaign gameplay, we will be diving in shortly. I gave my Halo Infinite campaign first impressions at the beginning of this live stream. If you have any questions, make sure and hit subscribe so you can talk in my chat. And that way, you can know what do I think about a certain thing. We greatly appreciate people supporting the stream. It's extremely easy to support this stream. It's free to hit subscribe. It's free to hit the like button. If you want to support directly with a paid membership, you can click the join button or you can click the join command. We also have our own coffee that we sell. If you've got questions about that, I'd be happy to describe the flavor to you, and you can use the coffee command. It's ours, by the way. You're not going to some other company. We have disc plates behind me, and my shirt is from 80s Tees. Ten games the critics love, but the players hated. So Red Dead Redemption 2 got a 92 and then a 4. Wasn't Red Dead getting downvoted because of glitches in the beginning, though? Pokemon Sword and Shield got an 81 and then got like a 3.7. Skyrim for the PlayStation 3, a 92 and a 6.5. Devil May Cry for the PlayStation 3 got an 85 and then a 5 from the audience. Mass Effect 3? Why did Mass Effect 3 do so poorly? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, an 88 from the reviewers and a 3 from the community. Spore? Why did Spore get such a low score? Spore was awesome. Oh, the ending of Mass Effect. I remember that. Everybody was so angry. I forgot about that. Yeah, didn't they go back and like change it because everyone was so ticked? LOL 2012. Oh yeah. I remember reading about that. The Metacritic user reviews are sus prior to a few years ago. Why is that? Oh, stuff got bombed a lot? Yeah. What do you think about review outlets splitting their vote between multiplayer and campaign? Makes sense to me, so I focus on what I care about. That's a good question, Steven. I think it's odd. I don't know if it's wrong or bad. I do think it's wrong and a little bit anomalous, the current era that we're in, that like Halo Infinite can launch, its multiplayer has lots of criticisms from the community, and yet the campaign is being reviewed separately. Like, how many people are going to go to Metacritic and give Halo Infinite a low score as a user because of the multiplayer? Right now, all of the Metacritic scores are purely campaign-based. When I finished, I may have actually said, really? Really? Yeah, IGN gave Halo Infinite's multiplayer a 9, which, again, I just think it's so hard to trust them. It's like, what? That doesn't feel like you're honoring the community or being honest about how the multiplayer exists. I think that just makes you so untrustworthy as a review outlet. What should the score be based off of? Usually I break it down into gameplay is the single most important thing. Is the gameplay good, smooth? Is it buggy? Is it glitchy? Does it feel good, right? Gameplay breaks into lots of its own subcategories, but gameplay, story. Now, graphics I put in the category of like, it needs to be good for what it sets out to do. So you can have a game that looks like Ori and the Blind Forest or a game that looks like Halo, and you judge it based on its merits, right? I think the dilemma with a game like Halo and Microsoft being attached to it is that a review outlet wants to stay good with them because they know there's going to be future season stuff and packs and imagery and press kits, and they want to get those really, really quick and really, really good. You think if IGN gave the multiplayer a 7 and the campaign an 8, do you think that would put them in the good graces of Halo and Microsoft for future press? No, it wouldn't. They're playing the game. They're playing the game. Because Denzel said, with respect to like the news media, it's not about what's true, it's about who's first. And the video game media is no different. It's not about what's true, it's about who's first. And a lot of these review outlets are playing the game. They want to be first. I don't think they're paid. We got to be careful we don't develop the Illuminati's under every rock. I don't think so. But I definitely think there is a power dynamic. It's like, we're going to give you early access to DLCs or seasons or press kits so that you can throw that into your articles and your Twitter feeds and your YouTube channels. Well, that is actual literal money. When you get something early as the press, that translates into money. Because if you get it a day or two later, you get a significant reduction in click rate and ad revenue. So don't kid yourself. A lot of these review outlets are having to play the game. They aren't necessarily paid, but livelihoods depend on it. Right. You live and die on the relevancy vapor of like, hey, here's a bunch of new stuff. Yeah! 24 hours later, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Not really true with someone like Angry Joe. He always releases reviews weeks to months after the release, and he's doing great. Angry Joe has established himself with a brand and a POV and a show that people want to consume. IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, The Gamer, VG247, that's not the business that they're in, my friend. The business that they're in is churn and burn, churn and burn, churn and burn. Here's something relevant, next. Here's something relevant, next. Here's something relevant, next. They're a meat grinder of relevancy. That's what their brand deals in. They try to ride the front of the wave. And the only way you're going to effectively ride the front of the wave with really big property is you need them to love you. You need Microsoft and 343 to treat you well as the press. Because if they don't, then you will lose significant amounts of money because you won't be getting the clicks. Like, why do you think, like, really analyze this? Because nobody's analyzed this before. Why do you think that nobody would cross Bungie when what happened last year, and even recently when I've tried to draw attention to their wrongdoing? Nobody will report on it. Why? Because Bungie and Destiny pays the bills. If you get to report early, trust me, I used to be on a podcast with the guy who writes for Forbes, and he would get stuff early, and the click rate He talked to me about it. The clicks that he would get on the Destiny stuff when he got to break it early was insane. That's why he embeds YouTube videos into all of his articles. He's literally grown a YouTube channel off of it because he gets stuff early. And then he slaps a video for his YouTube channel at the end of the Forbes article. He just embeds it. Why? Because when you get stuff early, it is literal money in your pocket. I mean, my gosh. Look at the click rates on stuff whenever you get it early or you get it new. That's how it works. They're playing the game. The video game review outlets at this point in time, I just don't think they're even worth their weight in salt. I don't. They are extensions. They are marketing extensions of the development companies. That's all they are. That's all they are. They're marketing extensions of the developer companies. They give you a modicum amount of good information. They give you some basic information, but their scores are not worth anything. They're just not. It is merely a mechanism by which they stay in the good graces of a company that basically pads their pockets with relevancy. Can't blame them. You just have to take everything with a grain of salt. Yeah, that's why live streamers are becoming more relevant. I truly believe that live streamers should be far more trusted and a much bigger and relied upon resource than these gaming review outlets. And I'm going to be honest to you, I think these game review outlets are on a short road. I think they are. Because it's clear that they're compromised. It's clear that they shouldn't. Their scores should be looked at with a critical eye. I don't think a lot of them are trustworthy at this point, and I think that's a short road. It's a short road. More and more people are going to say, just watch a live streamer. Like, you'll get everything you need to know from the live streamer, literally the day of, or at midnight, or watch the YouTubers when the embargoes lift. I don't know if people give Skill Up such a hard time. His review of Halo Infinite was just very factual and accurate and fair. You have a very clear picture of the kind of game you're going to be getting after his review. I'm not saying they're like inherently dishonest. I'm saying they can't be trusted. Right? You've been around people like this before. They're kind of tricky. They're not a liar. They're not a deceiver. But I wouldn't trust that guy. I don't know. He's compromised. Why I didn't hear you talk like this when people are praising Sony? Just saying. Give me an example. I'm not talking about Microsoft. Quit injecting that into the conversation. I'm not talking about Microsoft, and I'm not talking about Halo, right? Take off your Master Chief helmet for a second. I'm talking about the gaming industry. The helmet never comes off. Yeah, there are people that think I'm like a Sony shill. Oh. People have been praising Sony for the past 10 years for all day, bad deeds. I don't hear you complaining about it. But we're not talking about Sony and Microsoft right now. We're talking about the reliability of review outlets and why review outlets want to stay in good with the developers. We've not said anything about Microsoft and Sony. Now, we talked about the reach of Halo as a brand and how many clicks you're going to get when you break a Halo story. I also talked about Bungie. Who's Bungie owned by? Nobody. Like, this has nothing to do with the Sony-Microsoft fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, take Master Chief's boot out of your mouth. Like, stop kissing Master Chief's boots. I'm not talking about Microsoft, Sony. I'm not. I took issue with Sony for something a while ago. I forget what it was. What did we cover where I felt like they did something stupid? When Sony took away Street Fighter from Xbox, did you do a video about it? Huh? I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, the Horizon Forbidden West pricing. Yeah. Yeah. I gave them a lot of ridicule about that. I gave them a lot of criticism about that. The Horizon Forbidden West pricing structure, I took them to task for that. I said that it was stupid. The last three fighters that make Sony literally take away from Xbox, homie, you very clearly have like a vendetta against Sony. You're bringing up something that's not even relevant right now, and as Abe said, it's not relevant to the subject matter. I tried to get Lona to cover Street Fighter moving to Sony, but that story doesn't play here. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't cover fighting games either. It might not have been something I felt relevant to me or my audience. Sony didn't take Street Fighter away from Xbox. Sony funded Street Fighter V. Sony is trash though. I mean, yeah, the second most console saturation in the market, over 120 million PS4s in saturation, and more next-gen titles this year than Microsoft. But yeah, they're trash, dude. You know, it's funny. I'm gonna be brutally honest. You Halo fans and Microsoft fans make it really tough to enjoy Microsoft products. Like, I don't want to have to deal with Master Chief Master Chief worshiping Neanderthals every time I touch these products. Like, you make the products less appealing. I own every single console. I have a Nintendo Switch, an Xbox Series X, a PlayStation 5, and I have a PC. I don't trash games needlessly. I do my absolute best to either own my bias or speak in fact. Like, you know what I'm saying? I love my Series X. I think it's nice. I took my Series X with me when I went to to Ohio. But there's no next-gen titles for it right now. And Halo Infinite doesn't feel like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 game. That doesn't mean I'm a hater. Like, that's your standard, right? That's your standard? Is that if I don't worship the game, bow down at the altar of Master Chief, lick his boot, kiss his ring, and say it's a 10 out of 10 game, I'm a hater. Like, that's your standard. You make it impossible to enjoy the product. If I give a game a 7 or an 8, that means that I recommend it and think it's a good game. But that's not good enough. I have to be like a cult member. Do you see how that makes the product unappealing? You're bad for the very product that you claim to love. Like, have self-awareness. If you want people to enjoy Halo, making people abide by this standard of no, 9s and 10s, worship the game, or you're a hater. What? I'm saying it's a solid 7.5 out of 8. That's a good score from me. I'm saying the combat felt nice. The guns feel nice. Like, what? I don't understand. You're making an unattainable standard. You're basically making it to where, like, nobody's going to want to interact with the thing that you love, because you're making it to where, like, no, you must love this. You must worship this. A famous man once said, I'll turn families against families. If you're going to love me, you need to hate your family. You're treating Halo like deity. Like, if you're going to love Halo, you need to hate everything else. It doesn't work. Oh, 30, I have felt that so much. When people talk about how they think like Ratchet, Returnal, and Ghost of Tsushima aren't that impressive, I'm like, oh, homie, your jealousy is showing. These award-winning games that I can't play, they don't look that good. I think you've been pretty fair to Halo so far for someone who's not a Halo fan. Yeah, I don't have an axe. Like, the axe that I grind is that I love games and want to see them be awesome. That's my goal with my content in these discussions. I don't give a rip who makes the game. I just want it to be good. I don't care who makes it. Who made this game? Who cares? Once I play it, obviously I like to know who it is because I want to give them praise. Like, I didn't know who Housemarque was, but once I learned, like, oh, this is some company that's never made a game like this before, I want to give them praise. But I don't go into a game with a dog in the fight of like, well, I'm going to really make sure and give this game a lot of love because it's Microsoft. Like, I don't do that. The argument goes all the way back to the Super Nintendo Sega Genesis days for me. People would hate on the games on the other console because they didn't own one. Not because they were objective. To a degree, yes. When Starfield, Hellblade, Doom, etc. happen, I'll buy an S. Yeah, like Hellblade 2 and Starfield, yeah. Next, Elder Scrolls. To be fair, Lono, those 3 games you just rattled off have a big negative hanging around them. They're so good that they should not be locked down to one console. It should have been able to be experienced by all. Yeah, but part of the reason that they're so good is that they were funded and optimized by one platform for one platform. Like, what? First-party exclusives tend to be some of the best, and I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that it's built for one platform. Like, both the Spider-Mans, Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Like, I'm not going to say that, like, oh, that should be enjoyable by all. What do you mean? It was paid. Sony paid for it. What? No. Like, huh? I don't like the fact that these games aren't enjoyable by all. I'm not saying that, like, I'm like celebrating that not everybody can enjoy the games, because when Microsoft paid for a year of Tomb Raider exclusivity, I was angry because the second Tomb Raider game was amazing, and it hurt. It hurt the game's reach. It hurt the game's commercial sales. Why do you think the third Tomb Raider game got handed off to a different studio, and the third Tomb Raider is nothing compared to the first two? Why? Because they jacked around with it, and it probably didn't have the commercial success that it needed to justify the sequel being handed to the same developers. It's so irritating what they did. Take a fat check from Microsoft and murder the commercial reach and success of the second Tomb Raider, which was significantly better than the first, subsequently setting the trajectory of the franchise to just land in the dirt with the third one. They had some other studio make it. It's not good. That irritates me to this day. That could be one of the best trilogies in existence, and it's all sullied and bad. Like, hey, one's good. Oh, two's even better. What the frick is this? What is number 3? And I attribute it to Microsoft buying the year of exclusivity. I'm not like pro exclusivity, but when the publisher pays for it to be built for their platform, that speaks to a lot of the optimization. Like, Ratchet and Clank is amazing. And it's amazing because it was built for that architecture. They were able to really stretch the game to its absolute limitations. Who or what is Lono? I go by Lono. You could easily bring those games everywhere without compromising the quality. I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. I don't think you could take Ratchet and Clank and Returnal and just put it everywhere. I don't think so. I think you are really, really oversimplifying the development process, the architectures, the engine, the technology. I'll do you one better. What is Lono? Sorry, I'm new. No, you're good. Yeah, I go by Lono. I'm ready to yeah. I talked about this with my therapist and with Creature. We're even I don't know. We're getting to the point where I might even shed that. Like, what's that name anymore? What is that? That's not really who I am anymore. Like, I don't know. I feel like the shows have been really better over here on gaming because I just kind of show up as me. I don't feel like this weird pressure or a trajectory to, like, be a persona. Like, I don't know. We have a naming contest. All in favor of naming, say aye. No. SNTR has a good hook. Well, SNTR is a brand, though. I'm talking about me as a person. Yeah, you can think of Lono as a nickname, but that's not who I am. Not anymore. I submit for consideration, Cranky Panda. Yeah, we wouldn't get rid of our branding. Our branding is good. I had a guy take issue with the rebrand on Presents. I'm like, no, we have like an established brand now. Everywhere you look, there's SNTR. Presents, gaming, updates. You know what I mean? I don't dislike Lono, but it just doesn't, I don't know. I had you in my purple directory and drop by sometimes. I just want to say I really like the direction of your broadcast here. You're a nice presence in my WFH routine. I don't know what. Oh, work from home routine. When did I first start going by Lono? When I entered the streaming world, because it was actually, I've been Lono in the gaming world ever since Quake 3 Rocket Arena. That was the name I chose back then. And I've been Lono ever since. My friends from high school call me it. Anybody that games with me calls me Lono. Like that guy, that personality, he's just not, he's dead. I'm not being morbid, but that guy, he's just dead. He's not around anymore. I think it's why I can still get pretty defensive when people like call my integrity into question or my honesty, because that would sting anybody, but that's unique to everything that's happened to me, I think. Whoa, Rick! Oh. Does it stand for anything? It's a character in a movie with Christopher Walken and Dennis Leary. And Dennis Leary's character's name is Lono. And I loved it. And my friend told me that I reminded him of Dennis Leary because I would always go on these rants and things in the lunchroom. He's like, you remind me of Dennis Leary. No, I would probably just start going by my real name, Abe. To be fair, the old Lono would never have played Dark Souls, Sekiro, or Elden Ring. That's right. That's right. That's right. You rant? No, I don't rant at all. No, we're not going to rebrand the channels. We're not going to rebrand the channels. The channels will stay SNTR Gaming, SNTR Presents and all of that. Yeah. You identify Lono as someone who used to shake plastic bags at cats. I would need you to spend a month wearing a shirt with your name on the front of it to help with the transition. I forgot that Lono isn't your name as well. Something else I won't spoil. I don't care. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna call you Lono for life. I'm not gonna ask people to stop calling me that. I consider it more of a nickname now than a persona. Like when you guys call me that, I mentally think of it as a nickname. It's a nickname. You have friends that you call different nicknames. I had a guy and his name was not Pedro, but we just called him Pedro. My friend called him at once as a joke and it just stuck. We just called him Pedro. His name was not Pedro. His name was not Peter, but we all called him Pedro. Made no sense, but it was his nickname. Changing your name? No, I'm not changing my name. All the channels and stuff are staying just as they are. We're not talking about a brand change. I didn't take into account the DualShock stuff, but there's 2 games that use that. I'm talking about games that already have come out. Distorted, I understand where you're coming from philosophically about titles being exclusive to one platform, but I just don't think it fits with the reality. I don't think it fits with game development and budgets and all of the interested parties that are attached. It's super idealistic and not bright-eyed, but it's pretty idealistic to be like all games should be playable everywhere. Yeah, that sure, but it'll never happen, right? No one anywhere on the entire planet should go hungry, but it happens, and we always do our best to solve problems like that, but there are just certain things, there are just certain realities, like, it'd be great if everyone was a millionaire, right? It'd be great if everybody, had everything they ever needed in life. And it's just like, well, that just isn't reality, You work toward the ideal knowing that the ideal is pretty much unobtainable. My name's not Victor, but I've had Victor Mayhem as my gamer tag since dial-up BBS days, playing Trade Wars. Eugene says, Distorted, you're failing to account what it means when a dev only has to optimize for a single platform, what they can use, experience, and tricks they've gained from years of experience in that. Yeah, again, I think you're also really oversimplifying it. Like, being able to build Halo Infinite for the Xbox architecture is probably really helpful because there's a lot of similarities between the architecture and the Xbox. But I got news for you. If they were able to build Halo Infinite just for the Series X, it would be a better game. I'm not kidding. It would be a better game. All you have to do is look at the games that landed exclusively for Sony to see that when you optimize for one platform, look at Ratchet and look at Returnal. When you optimize for literally one platform, one piece of hardware, look at what you can do. I want you to look at the discoveries they've made and the cool things they've done in Ratchet and Clank, and imagine in a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse video game. Think of all the things they could do with the Sony architecture, all the tricks that they learned with Ratchet. And then, what would happen if they tried to do that on PC or Xbox? Well, the data controller and the hard drives are different, so the response times is off by a couple of milliseconds, so we wouldn't be able to do this, and this. Well, we could, but we'd have to retool it because you'd have to put the processing on the front end instead of the back end. You'd have to do like mid-lane transitions so that these things could happen with good handoff. It's not as easy. That's extra development time. That's extra bandwidth. And I know you might push back and say, yes, but then you increase your potential profits and sales because you're on a completely other platform. Sure. But everything we know about development and how long it takes, it does seem like when you narrow your scope, you end up with a better product. Yeah, I played the campaign a bit. I'm waiting to jump back in. We've gone an hour now just having a discussion. I do need to flip over and play. But I'm worried that I'm going to do that and we're going to lose a bunch of people because people don't want spoilers. Gameplay has just really, other than Fridays, it's just taken a bit of a back seat here just because it's like the talk show is the show, you know? Gameplay is not necessarily where we thrive and flourish. And the draw and the demand right now for Halo Infinite discussions and campaign is just low. It's not very strong. I think it's because games like this, the anticipation in the news is where all the meat is, and then once the game's out, everybody's playing and not paying attention. So it's like, it's hard to justify, and this is going to happen with a lot of games on the horizon, it's hard to justify me taking a lot of time to play the game because the interest just immediately drops. And it's like, the reviews hit early because people get access early, and so first impressions don't matter to people because they've already kind of made up their mind and are currently playing, or if you boot up and do gameplay. This is why I think the MMOs played really well for us. Gameplay and Lost Ark and New World played very well. Why? Because it's not like this linear story where you want to avoid spoilers. So the Lost Ark beta did excellent for us. New World has done excellent for us. Why? Well, it's an MMO. It's people enjoy kind of just chilling and watching and seeing the grind and seeing the loot drop, and they're not worried about spoilers. You play games when you're not streaming? Not much. Look at what Sucker Punch did with Ghost of Tsushima, knowing all the little tricks and stuff that they could get out of it. Right. Didn't we used to have a discussion about how games would be held back in old gen as well? I feel like this would be part of that. Potentially it would be part of it. The reason that old gen's not holding back God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West is because that development cycle started very early and they were immediately building an existing architecture with existing assets because they didn't have the dev kits for the PS5 yet. So much of God of War was already in development before the PS5 kits were in circulation. Once the PS5 dev kits got in circulation, I believe they tested a 4K checkerboard 60 frames per second update for God of War on the PS5 to see just how far they could push the existing engine, assets, textures, and everything else, because they would apply that same graphical fidelity update to God of War Ragnarok. So much of God of War Ragnarok was probably already built at a foundational level, meaning it's not being held back by old gen. The only way you could argue is being held back by old gen is if they had the dev kits and opted to be like, well, instead of making it exclusive to PS5 and making it insane and awesome, let's build it for both. No, they had already started building it. It's not being held back. Same for Horizon Forbidden West. The engines are agile, and you can get a significantly better experience and performance and level of graphical fidelity in both games on your PS5. John Zohead with 8 months says, happy 8th. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping your membership here. How'd they get Ghost of Tsushima to have no loading times on the PS5? Yeah, they did an update. They learned some tricks. Maybe they talked to Insomniac and they're like, how'd you guys do that? You know, I don't know. Maybe they just talked to the Sony engineers and they're like, how can we tap into this? And then bam, no load times in Ghost of Tsushima. That, and they don't want to lose out on the sales of the old system. It's both and though, 30, because if you think about it, in the realm of timeliness of the deliverable, they needed to start working on the sequels right away. It wasn't like they were like, hey, let's start building Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok right now because we want to make sure we sell on the old systems as well as the new. It was, no, we have a great engine, existing assets. Let's start building the next game so that the deliverable timeline is healthy. And then the PS5 enters the picture. And then, yes, obviously, they're going to want to give it better treatment on that platform so anybody who owns a PS5 can be like, man, my version's better. It's both and. There's also going to be games that say, well, we can do our sequel on both platforms. Why? There's 120 million PS4s in circulation. We'd be stupid not to. Ratchet & Clank, however, and Returnal didn't seem to have a choice. They made technological decisions that you would not have been able to downscale to the old PlayStation architecture. It just wouldn't have worked. So it is a matter of priority sometimes. There are going to be games that look at the landscape of PlayStation and say, we would rather increase the technological capacities of the game and really push things forward in the way that Ratchet did. Or they're going to say, well, our game doesn't really need to push the envelope, but, you know, it would be great to have more sales. The cost of this and the sales projections of if we go both platforms versus if we don't. I mean, and there'll be games that launch on both. Old gen's holding back. Bleh. No, it's not. Like, you're looking at it, people that say that, you're looking at it so simplistically. As if, like, there's some ideal height that games could reach that they're not reaching if they would just shed old gen. Well, yeah, and then it wouldn't be a solvent, viable project, and the ROI would be terrible, and then you'd never get any more games out of that development studio because you stomped your feet through a tantrum and wanted only new gen. And then they make no money. PS4 Pro had very quick load times to begin with. I mean, I played Ghost of Tsushima before the update on load times on my PS5, and the load times were pretty good. But the update made it's instantaneous. It's like mind-blowing. The first time it happens, you're like, huh? Like, what? You literally fast travel all the way across the map. Not a blip of load time. Like, right, but Sony used the PS5 to sell certain games by saying they're only on the 5 and then decided to bring it to 4. No. There's only one game you can claim that on 30. That's been a false narrative that so many people have run with. There is one game in one trailer with a watermark in the corner that says PS5 exclusive, and they're going to give a lighter version to the PS4. It's the one racing game. I covered this and researched this extensively when that narrative got circulated. There is only one game where that was stated down in the corner of a video with the watermark. All of the other games, they never gave assurances would be PS5 only. That was never stated. I went back, I read the reviews, I looked at the articles, I was like, okay, did they lie to the public? Because that's a great headline, is it not? Get a bunch of clicks with the negativity, bashing Sony. And I found zero evidence for it. There is a video where the one racing game, it does stipulate in the corner with like a watermark that it'll be a PS5 exclusive, and they have since come out and said there will be a lighter version coming to the PS4. I forget which racing game that it is. But the others were never, that was never stated. There was never like a claim of like, buy the PS5 to get this, and then they're like, everybody's angry because they bought the PS5 and it's going to be on both. Like, and again, if somebody bought the PS5 because they were like under the impression that they were the only ones that were going to be able to buy Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, then like, number one, I think that's a weird way to think of like, well, that's not fair. I only bought the PS5 because I thought I needed to or I had to. Well, the games aren't even out yet. So I don't buy that. And secondly, what difference does it make? You can still get the game and yours is going to look way better. It's such a strange priority to be like, well, I thought only I was going to be able to play this. It's like I don't know. It's like when you get a gift and somebody else gets a gift too and you're a kid and you get like jealous and you're like, I thought only I was going to get a present. It's like, what difference does it make? Horizon Forbidden West was always marketed as cross-gen, and God of War was only recently officially revealed that it was cross-gen from the start. Yeah, it would be so weird. Like, they knew those games were going to be cross-gen from the start. There's no marketing. There's no marketing that made that promise that like these two foundational iconic games to the platform were going to be PS5 only. I couldn't find any evidence of it. There was a very generic statement from Jim Ryan is his name about we believe in generations, and I went and read the article, and do you want to know what happened? The journalist misinterpreted and misrepresented his statements, and then people were off to the races with the narrative that all of the new games coming out would be PS5 only. And if you actually read his statement, he is talking about features that will only be available on the PS5. Like, you have to study English language and the antecedent, and like when he's talking about the things that will only be on the PS5 and you grammatically break down his sentence structure, he's talking about features, not games. But the journalist interpreted it in a way that when everybody ran with the story, it was, well, Sony made assurances that we believe in generations and all the new games coming out would be PS5 only, and they're not. Bleh. Jim Ryan lied. What the frick? I did a whole video on this. Sony didn't lie, you can't read is the name of the video. PlayStation then advertised the PlayStation 5 games would not be on last gen. Yes, they did. No, they didn't. Go and find me the proof. I sat here for 3 hours that day. PlayStation didn't lie, you can't read, and not a single person could find me a video or an article that showed me that they did that. Nobody's ever been able to provide me any credible shred of evidence. There is one video where the watermark in the corner indicates that Gran Turismo will be a PS5 exclusive. And they're not putting the same version of the game back on PS4. It's going to be like a stripped down version of the game just because they did that, not anticipating the chip shortage, making the PS5's production be so strangled. PlayStation lied to today, fan base, but that's okay. You can assert till the cows come home. You've not proven your case. Asserting without evidence is as useless as claiming anything without evidence. There's no reason to even say it. I could claim right now that Microsoft lied to their fan base. Prove it, Lono. No, they did. That's fine. I just need to say it. Sorry to say, but yes, they did. Yeah, you're just reasserting your own assertion. Like, you're not backing it up with evidence. Your lack of evidence is telling. You don't have an article. You don't have a video. You have no proof that Sony lied to their audience about PS5 exclusive titles. There's no proof out there. Go watch the videos of the people that believe what you're saying. There's not a single shred of proof. They won't show you any proof. They misinterpret one sentence. We believe in generations. That's what people do. Go watch the videos. Go watch Young's video. Go watch all their videos. They misinterpret the man's words. And then go read the actual article it's been ripped out of from and look at everything that he said. Not, we believe in generations. It's, 4 words. 4 words. But he's got like a whole block of text where he talks about all the features that you'll get only on the PS5. Love the idea of Gran Turismo 7 coming on the PS4 because I have no intention of buying a PS5 unless it will be on the shelves in stores at a low price. You're an idiot. They said we believe in generations. What do you think that means? Don't be a moron. Okay, so you're just saying it and calling me names. So rudeness is the weak man's imitation of strength. Make an argument. Calling me names just makes you look like a child. I'm telling you, I sat here for 3 hours that day. We combed over every interview people gave me. I was like, there's no evidence here that they lied to the public. We believe in generations, PS5 next gen only. Here you go. Here's the quote. We have always said that we believe in generations. We believe that when you go to all the trouble of creating a next gen console, that it should include features and benefits that the previous generation does not include. And that, in our view, people should make games that make the most of those features. It's so hard when you actually look at the quotation. It's really difficult, isn't it? To hear the truth. It's like, if I just pull out, we believe in generations, I can make a false claim. But his entire structure of his sentence is, if you buy the PS5, there's going to be features and benefits that the previous generation doesn't include. And when you make a game, capitalize on those features. Nothing in there about exclusivity to the PS5. Like reading comprehension 101. Look up what an antecedent is. We have always felt that we had a responsibility to serve the PS4 community for several years after the launch of the PS5, and that it represented a huge business opportunity for us. The numbers are quite straightforward. If you say, in broad brush figures, that we have a community of 100 million PS4 owners right now, and in the first couple of years, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 25 million might migrate to PS5, that still leaves a huge number of people with PS4s. And that community is demonstrating an amazing stickiness and willingness to stay engaged that I think the events of the past few months have reinforced what we know already. Same interview. We are going to, for years after, continue to support the PS4 owners. I'm sorry, but it's obvious what they meant. Really? So when I just read the entire statement to you, King Trot, and he says, features and benefits, you just dream up in some sort of like fever dream that he's talking about games, and then in the same interview, like one paragraph later, he says we have a responsibility to our PS4 owners for several years after the launch of the PS5. So the very article that you're pulling "We Believe in Generations" from, he doesn't say anything about games only being on PS5. He doesn't list any games. He says features and benefits. And then he talks about how games being developed should take advantage of those benefits. That doesn't have anything to do with being exclusive. Haptic feedback, 3D audio, higher graphical fidelity, instantaneous load times. These are all benefits that you get on the PS5. Like I said, this isn't my first rodeo on this subject. I sat for 3 hours and debated this with the public. Nobody could show me a single interview where this was stated explicitly. It's a misinterpretation of 4 words by the journalist and Yang Ye. I did not see you make a video defending Xbox when it was getting killed the same way they're making games for both consoles. What are you talking about? When was Microsoft getting killed and I should have defended them? What are you talking about? Ratchet, Returnal, Demon Souls, and PS5 only, and then they just changed the plan? Come on, man. What do you mean? What do you mean? Returnal and Ratchet were built from the ground up with architectures that only work on the PS5. Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, according to the people working on it, was never planned to be next-gen only. You're literally barking up a tree that doesn't exist. The voice actor for Kratos confirmed that God of War Ragnarok's development cycle started long before the PS5 dev kits were in existence. They didn't just suddenly change their mind. You're literally creating a false history. Both Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok were developed for cross-gen from moment one. They didn't suddenly change their mind because of the sickie and they weren't going to make enough money. You are absolutely creating falsehood. That's not true. Why would they make 3 PS5s exclusive at launch, but on all the next exclusives are exclusives? It makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. Think about it. What did you just say? Launch exclusives. Exclusives at launch. That's really, really important, is it not? The development cycles of God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West did not line up with the launch of the PS5. So, why? Because they weren't ready. And, again, from the voice actor of Kratos, we know from his own testimony, because he got injured and they halted production, the games were in development well before PS5 dev kits were out there. You are just factually wrong. There was no plan for those games to ever be next-gen only. They went to Insomniac, Housemarque, and Blue Light, what's their name? Bluepoint, and said, we want exclusive titles when the PS5 launches. And there were things that they were trying to do with Ratchet and things that they were doing with Returnal that you can't do on the PS4. That's not true with God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West because they're sequels, and sequels are commonly built almost immediately after the end of the first. So they just used existing assets and the existing engine. They lied to the station fan base. You're not going to change that. You've not proven that they lied. You just keep asserting it, which is just a sign that you don't have an argument. Assertions are not arguments. They're manipulating their fan base to buy a PS5 at launch. Real good company. I got to tell you, I don't like saying things like that, but you're just stupid. That is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So when a game company has launch titles, they're trying to manipulate their community. What is that? Xbox copium because you didn't get any launch titles with your Series X? You didn't get any launch titles with your Series X, so PlayStation's over there manipulating their player base because they have launch titles. Holy jealousy copium. My gosh. The Xbox Series X had no launch titles because what? They respect you? They respect you? And because the PlayStation 5 had exclusive launch titles, that's manipulation? Where the frick are you from? I would never have imagined somebody would have accused a company of manipulation because they had exclusive launch titles. What are you talking about? At least I'm honest. If it was Xbox that said this, you'd be calling it a lie. So you're saying that I'm dishonest. I'm telling you, you're not going to last here very long by calling my character and honesty in question. I'm not being dishonest. You have yet to show me any evidence that they lied. You're the liar. You're lying. You're saying they lied to their fan base. Prove it. Well, I don't feel like it. Okay, well then you're a liar. Talk about hypocrisy. You're in here lying, claiming that Sony lied. Like, you're the liar. They changed the plan and refused to be honest. That's a lie. That's unsubstantiated. There's no evidence to that. All evidence points to the contrary. Do you have any counter evidence? Do you have any counter evidence? The voice actor for Kratos. The development cycle of Horizon Forbidden West. This is evidence. This is traceable, provable evidence. The PS5 dev kit release schedule. This is evidence. Do you have any counter evidence? Where's your counter evidence? Because if not, you're just a liar, which is incredibly ironic and hypocritical to lie about a company to claim that they lied. Where's your evidence? Like I said, I sat here for 3 hours that day. All the Xbox fanboys and the Sony fanboy bashers that are like, I'm a Sony fan and they lied to us. Okay, show me. We believe in generations. Explain what it means otherwise. I don't have to explain what it means otherwise. I'll read you the quote. He explains it. Listen very carefully and remember that the English language has rules in it, and an antecedent is something that is referred to in the previous part of the sentence. So when he says, we have always said that we believe in generations, we believe that when you go to all the trouble of creating a next-gen console, that it should include, listen very carefully here, listen very carefully, it should include features and benefits that the previous generation does not include. So we believe in generations, in his mind, is about the next console having features and benefits that the previous generation doesn't have. That's what makes them distinct from each other in this statement. And then he says, and that, in our view, so this is a paragraph, this is a single thought. You can't rip we believe in generations out. This is a single thought. He is explaining the thought and philosophy of the company. He says, people should make games that make the most of those features. He explains what they mean right there. He never makes a single mention of game exclusivity. He says features and benefits, and then games make the most of those features, which, if you've listened to any of the marketing surrounding Horizon Forbidden West, you know that that promise is coming true. Cinematic lighting in the gameplay instead of just in the cutscenes. You're not going to get that on the PlayStation 4. Instantaneous load time or zero load time. You're not going to get that on the PS4. 3D audio. You will not get that on the PS4. Haptic feedback. You will not get that on the PS4. Those are things that literal departments at the company developed specifically for the PS5. So that when you play Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5, you're going to get cinematic lighting in your gameplay, 3D audio, haptic feedback instantaneous load times, and you get none of that on the PS4. That is exactly what his statement is about. That statement's being honored. Now, you would be well within your right to be angry if Horizon Forbidden West was identical on both systems. Then you'd be like, now wait a minute. You convinced us to buy PS5s because we're going to get all these extra awesome features and I'm not getting any. You'd be well within your right to be angry about that, but that's not what's going on. Look at the September 16th, 2020 PlayStation blog post. The 6th paragraph explains it well. Can you put that into the Discord? You're a fanboy child. I always know that somebody's extremely insecure and has no argument when I rattle off the actual facts and the quotation from the man himself and you call me a name. Like, children behave in that way. What's the exact argument? There's a PS5 exclusive and games that are cross-gen? Yeah, the belief is that Sony lied to the public and convinced all these people to buy PS5s because they were going to get all these exclusive titles. And when Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok revealed they were cross-gen, everyone wet themselves in a rage. Oh, not me. Oh, I'm sorry, Philip, the other guy. Well, don't name call. It doesn't help the temperature in the room. I'd rather have a passionate debate, not name calling. Here's another quote. Additionally, we know that the PS4 community will transition to the PS5 at different times, and we're happy to announce PS4 versions of some of our exclusives. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy Big Adventure, and Horizon Forbidden West will also launch on the PS4. With these three games were designed to, while these three games were designed to take advantage of the PS5 and its unique next-gen features like the ultra-high-speed SSD and DualSense controller, PS4 owners will also be able to enjoy these experiences when they launch. The PS4 digital versions of launch games include a free upgrade to both PS5 consoles, while the PS4 disc versions of these games include a free upgrade on the PS5 and the Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive. Now, if you remember, I ripped Sony a new one for the Horizon Forbidden West price point because of the promise right here that you would be getting a free update. I shredded them for this, so I'm not a Sony fanboy. Right? I'm not a Sony fanboy. This quotation right here, we went round and round on this one, me and Eugene. It was like, no, it literally says that the PS4 digital versions on these launch games, include a free upgrade. And he was like, well, it has to be launch games. So because Forbidden West didn't end up being a launch games, no, it says that they'll also launch. Like the games that are listed above are what he's referring to. That's 2 months before the console's even released. Right, like you're not, there was no trickery here. I went off on Sony for that. I said, this is not worth it. The optics on this is freaking terrible. The optics on this is horrendous. Like, you told people you'd get a free update, and you're like, well, it wasn't a launch title, so shut up. Just give them the free upgrade. What are you doing? I ripped them for that. I thought that was dumb. This is what always makes me so, laugh so much. It's like, have I ever been known not to get out the bat when I think a company deserves it? Like, I have never sat here and just praised any company or game as if they can do no wrong. I've never done that. I'm just very selective for when I swing the bat. I do it based on facts and evidence, not like, well, my friend told me that they lied, or we believe in generations. What do you think it means? What do you mean? He explains what it means. It's not just up to you. Like, it's like he's like, we believe in generations. Cool. I can't hear what the rest of you're saying. I'm gonna leave now. Okay, I'm gonna turn this into like a statement that makes me feel good about buying a PS5. All right, see you later. He's like, no, I have more to say. Why are you plugging your ears? We believe in generations. Whoop! Like, that's gonna make me feel good about buying a PS5. No, Miles was great. Spider-Man Miles Morales is really, really great. It added a lot of new combat elements. He feels very different than Peter with respect to combat. Very different vibe, too. He's in Harlem. The soundtrack's different. It's very good. I think they did an excellent job sort of honoring the differences between the two characters. Wait, who's saying Miles is bad? No. He was asking. Miles is trash, question mark. He said, was Miles trash? He was asking if it was. We believe in generations means nothing without the follow-up sentence. Right, even as a statement in and of itself, it's just so vague. What do you mean? We believe in generations. Oh, that clearly means you're not going to make games for PS4 anymore, right? What the frick? No! There's 120 million PS4s in circulation. In the very same interview, he talks about there being a transitional period of there'll be years where we keep supporting the PS4. What? That's what I don't get. It's like you didn't even read the entire article. What'd you do? Watch Yong's video on it? Is that all you did? Like, Yong pulls the comment out, says the same thing that the journalist does, comes to a false conclusion and a misinterpretation, and just ignores the entire rest of the article. I wish I would have been more bold back then. I would have just blasted him. I'm like, Yang Ye is part of the reason that everybody's running with this false narrative that Sony lied. It's on Yang. He is massively influential in the gaming industry with a narrative tone that you can set with his viewership. Like, that article has so much more in it that just gets ignored. It's like, in the very same article, he talks about the fact that we're going to continue to support the PlayStation 4. It's 4 words. And even the 4 words are attached to another sentence that clearly states he's thinking about features and benefits, not games. Isn't it a little out of line for Lona to be getting on somebody for not reading? In a video game, sure, I don't read. But when it comes to stuff like this, if you're going to accuse somebody of lying, you better have strong evidence. Does he still have the video up? I have no idea. You'd have to go to his channel and just look for the word generations. Sony was getting praise saying they're the only next-gen system only making games for just PS5. Right now, on paper, factually, if you add up how many next-gen titles that have launched, Sony has more than Xbox. That's not a slam. That's not haterade. That's just the statement of fact. I liken it to a baseball game. If they're playing in a baseball game, Sony has put more points on the board in the early innings. That doesn't mean that Microsoft can't put points on the board in later innings. But right now, there are not any next-gen games on Xbox except for Forza. They haven't launched any next-gen games on the Series X. I'm not mad or being mean. That's just the truth. They tried to go against Xbox. They knew if they did the opposite, it would give them a huge advantage. They lied and continued to abuse and manipulate their fans. That's an assertion you made 10 minutes ago. You've just waited 10 minutes to make the assertion again. I call that strategy of internet argumentation. You want to have like victory through exhaustion. You're just going to exhaust the other person, right? This isn't a tennis match. In a tennis match, you hit the ball back and forth. You treat me like I'm in a batting cage and you're going to wear me out. It's like, well, that one didn't get past Lono. Well, that one didn't get past Lono. Well, that one didn't get past Lono. All right, let's wait a minute. All right, let's make the same point again. Let's see if we can wear him out. I read the quote to you and completely refuted it and even used actual evidences within the game's development cycles, and you just ignore all that and just make the same statement again. So you don't care that the voice actor for Kratos confirmed that God of War Ragnarok was in development before the PlayStation 5 dev kits were in circulation? You don't care that Horizon Forbidden West did the exact same thing, and we have actual communication from the company that the game was in development before and was always planned to be cross-gen? You don't care about that evidence? It doesn't matter? I'm 18 minutes behind. Holy crap! The Xbots in chat. This is what I think happens, right? Sony probably paid them to lie. Okay, so now you think this is honestly, this is just how stupid your position is. I'm not going to call you stupid. I'll say your position stupid. This is how stupid your position is. Now you think that the voice actor for Kratos celebrating the development studio for allowing him to take a break when he was injured, you think that's a lie. That he did that as a PR stunt to cover for Sony. Homie, this is a problem. Like, this is what happens when you have determined something before researching it and you will not let go of it. When all the facts disagree with what your determined conclusion is, you simply dismiss those facts or come up with some harebrained conspiracy theory to explain all those facts. Like, the development cycles of these games... Okay, I want you to think about something. In order for your position to be true, it means that Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok did not start their development cycle until the PlayStation 5 dev kits were in circulation, which means they would not be to the level of their development that they are right now. It also means that the God of War 4K checkerboard 60 frames per second update would have been out significantly earlier because they could have just done it. No, they did it once the dev kits were out because then they could update the PS5 to see, like, okay, what can we do with our game? What can we do with our assets and our engine? You think this was all just smoke and mirrors to protect an interview with Jim where he said, "We believe in generations"? Oh, we can't believe you did that, Jim. You went out there and said, "We believe in generations." Now we got to pay the Kratos voice actor to fake an injury and claim that God of War Ragnarok's been in development since such and such a date. And Horizon Forbidden West, we got to do the same thing. We got to get them to talk about their development cycle. What the actual frick? The intro paragraph is tricky, so I can understand some slight misunderstanding. It talks about PS5 games specifically that wouldn't be playable on the PS4. But when you go down further in the article, when he says we believe in generations, he talks about features and benefits, not games. So there's separate thoughts in his mind. Like, it's a separate thought, right? So, like, if you say, oh, will you come here to Netflix? We have our own exclusive titles that you can only watch here. And they'll trot out, Queen's Gambit and Ozark or whatever, and like that, okay? And then in another paragraph, they might say, we also have lots of great TV shows and blah, blah, blah. And then you can't come back and be like, well, wait, hang on a second. The opening paragraph said there would be content that's only here on Netflix. You have content on Netflix that's also on Amazon. You're a liar. And he'd be like, well, no, they're separate thoughts. There's different benefits and reasons to subscribe to Netflix. There are separate reasons and benefits to get a PS5. Here's a block of text about titles that will only land here. Here's a block of text about features and benefits that are only available on this console. What about their crossplay BS? What do you mean crossplay BS? Like, what do you mean? They charge game companies for crossplay? That's why it was slow to take off? Oh, yeah, I blasted them for that. I've been consistent. I thought their stance on crossplay with Fortnite was stupid. I criticized them for that. I did. I said that I said that was a ludicrous way to treat the community, and it was a ludicrous way to treat a very, very successful game franchise. To act like we know you're going to pay us. I 100% criticize them for that. When that became unearthed in the Epic Apple lawsuit, I said that's ludicrous. We all thought Sony bent the knee because of the stock value drops, like and the public pressure. I blasted them for that. Now you're not reading my comments. I mean, I hate to break it to you. The world doesn't revolve around you, my friend. I didn't see one of your comments because I've been busy talking to other people, not just you. And your method of argumentation is pretty poor, so you've not earned the banter rights that some people earn. There are people that earn banter right in that they're good at arguing and they're charitable and honest. You're not. You just keep making assertions, and it's exhausting to interact with people like that. So if you feel like you're getting ignored, it's probably your fault. Starfield's been in development for 7 years, but it's next-gen only. What do you have to say about that? Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, PS5 got Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. It was probably in development for, 5 or 6 years. Returnal, 4 or 5 years development. It was next-gen only. The Demon's Souls remake, next-gen only. What do you mean? I don't understand your point. Let me ask you something, Brandon. This game just came out. Where can I play it? Where can I play this game? Where can I play Halo Infinite? I'm just curious. I'm curious about where I can play the flagship Microsoft title. One of the titles that's synonymous with the Xbox platform. Where can I play Halo Infinite? On all of the Xboxes, right? On all of them. It's cross-gen. That's interesting. It's so weird. Maybe, just maybe, hear me out here, the Xbox Series X, very similar to the PS5, is going to have titles that launch that are exclusive for the Series X, and it's going to have titles that can be played on all of their console generations. Seems like they're doing the same thing. Saying if they start a game early, that's a means to come over for a Boda generation. I don't. Okay, starting a game early doesn't mean that it'll automatically be next-gen only. Again, you're ignoring the fact that the God of War Ragnarok dev cycle started before the PS5 dev kits were in circulation. Do you know what that means? So when I say that, is that something you can comprehend? Or is that just something that goes in one ear and out the other because you don't know what the PS5 dev kit is? So when I say that, that doesn't land on you. That like the development cycle length doesn't matter because the PS5 dev kits weren't available yet. Meaning that the development team for God of War Ragnarok just started building the next game in the engine and with the existing assets of the previous God of War game. Like, liberate yourself from a bad position. It feels good. It does. Like, your position on this is just ill-informed and bad. Just set yourself free from it. It's like you like your platform so much that you're just saying things about the other platform that just aren't true. Was thinking that God of War should have been next-gen only. I think we also have a language barrier. I don't know if English is your first language. Your sentence structures are so odd sometimes. I'm not being mean. Like, it's hard to understand you sometimes. It's a financial decision as well. Well, Jake, he talks about that in the very same article. That's what's so mind-blowing. He talks about how there's so many PlayStation 4 owners, they're going to continue for several years to support them and make sure they're getting games as well. Like, it just, you know what I'm saying? It's like in the same article. It's like, what? It blows my mind. It's like, what? They were very honest and transparent about what they were going to do and how the strategy was going to work. You don't turn your back on 100 to 120 million customers. I was saying everyone was thinking God of War should have been next gen only. Yeah, and people having expectations that were never set by the developer or Sony, that's your choice to think that. Like, you expecting that doesn't mean they have to do it. Like, it'd have been great if the Lord of the Ring, I thought Lord of the Rings was going to be 9 movies long, which sucks. Like, well, okay, but why did I expect that? Like, you expecting that doesn't mean they have to do it. It doesn't even mean that they set that expectation. In-house studios would get a dev kit earlier than outside companies, so the dev kit was 18 months for everyone, but it could have been earlier for Sony Studios. Right, but when God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Zero Dawn launched, I think it's pretty reasonable they didn't have them yet. I don't know. Those dev cycles started almost immediately. The timeline just doesn't make any sense. And again, it just also doesn't make sense to be like, well, we don't even they're not, the PlayStation 5 is not even in circulation yet. We don't even know how many that are going to be out there. Like, they're looking at 100 million PlayStations at that point in time. Like, of course they were going to build it for both platforms. You can question the decision to do cross-gen. Oh, they shouldn't have. You can question that decision, but you can't act like back then the initial plan was next-gen only and they changed their mind. That just simply isn't true. That's the issue. Like, the issue's not, like, from where you're sitting, Mike, like, well, maybe they did have the dev kits early. Even if they would have had the dev kits early, that doesn't mean that they would have been like, let's just build for PS5 only. Do you know how much work it would have been? Think about how much work it would have taken to start building a game for next gen and then port it backwards to the PS4. That's the other thing that people don't even fathom here. If you honestly think that the plan was we're going to build Ragnarok and Forbidden West next gen only, and then 2020 hits and the Sicky hits, and they're like, well, better change our mind. Do you have any idea how long it would take to do that? It's much harder to downgrade a game than to upgrade it. It was getting praise for next gen only. Xbox was getting killed, saying they're not just next gen only. I just don't understand. Yeah, PS5 did have a stronger first effort for next-gen only titles. Xbox literally just finally got one, Forza. It took that long. It's December of 2021. Like, what? That's why they got delayed, LOL. No, it's not true. Not true. The developers were not like, oh, we have to delay it to go back and build it. They told us exactly what happened with Horizon Forbidden West. They were in the final stages and they had to, it was something with the bosses what was it? They told us what they were polishing. It was like final, the phrase was final something with the bosses that they had to polish up. They said that the most of the game was done. So in your mind, because you've indulged a complete fantasy, Guerrilla is just lying to the public for Sony. Like, no, yeah, the original plan was to make this for next gen only, and it's only going to take us about 5 months to downgrade the entire dadgum game to the PlayStation 4. And in that time period, we're just going to tell them we're working on the bosses. Development cycles for these games are so insanely long. The idea that they could just port the game down in a couple of months is just laughably ignorant. Fabricate this entire narrative based off of bits and pieces, unrelated information, and a jealousy of something related to not having access to these games. Right, like one statement, we believe in generations, and you've whipped up this entire conspiracy theory that, like, that was a lie. They had always intended these games to be PS5 only, and then the Sicky happened, and then they got all these developers to agree to downgrade and port backwards their games and lie to the public about the dev cycles, and lie to the public about what the intentions have always been. Sure. Ratchet and Clank would not run unless it was a next-gen system. Yeah, it was built from the ground up for next-gen only. You're making my point for me. If it was as easy as just getting the games to go backwards, then why don't you think they would have done that already? Hey guys, we want to really make sure our PS4 owners can enjoy Returnal and Ratchet and Clank. Since it only takes 4 to 6 months to take an entire game's architecture and walk it backwards to old hardware, we're just going to do that with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Returnal, and Demon's Souls. You know, if it was that easy, they would have done it. There would be PS4 versions of those games if it was that easy. So if it was that easy for them to be like, oh no, the sickie, we better take Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok and walk them back to be workable on the PS4. Give me a freaking break. That would take forever. And if it was that simple, they would do it. It would have already been done with Ratchet and Returnal and Demon's Souls. You'd be playing it right now on your PS4 if it was that possible. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, man. The narrative twisting is just insane to me. It's just mind-boggling. Off of 4 words. We believe in generations. And then a bunch of these guys just red-pilled themselves and like Sony lied and they paid Gorilla and the voice actor for Kratos to lie to the public. They manipulate their audience with launch titles because we got an Xbox Series X with no launch titles and I got to spin that into a positive because I kissed the boot of Master Chief. Yeah, a brand new next-gen console without a single launch title. That's how I like my consoles to launch. I don't want to be manipulated. I want to buy it purely on the merits of the hardware itself. Don't give me launch titles and next-gen games for well over a year after the game console's been in circulation. Give me a break. Give me a break. Feeling a little attacked right now, not gonna lie. We're supposed to be playing Halo. We believe in generations. Cancel Sony. They lied. Absolutely ridiculous how people can get. That's why I think I'm like super sensitive to it. Like I'm sensitive to it because like this is exactly why the mob and why cancel culture works, because people just run with totally false narratives, and it's just like you are everything that is wrong with internet culture. You are literally part of the internet culture that is horrendously stupid and destructive. Like I'm not insulting you. No, it's a form of stupidity that is just so destructive. You're just blown by the wind of rumor, gossip, and misrepresentation. Facts and evidence just don't matter. The minute you meet a fact or a piece of evidence that doesn't line up with your conspiracy theory, gossip, drama mill nonsense, you're like, well, they probably paid him to say that. It's just, you're everything that's wrong with the internet. This is why lives are destroyed. This is why people are attacked and CMs are given death threats and people like wet themselves on Reddit. Like, this is exactly why. Because of people like you. You said it earlier, this kind of stuff makes you want to not play the game. Yeah, it makes the platform and it makes the game unappealing. It's like, you demand this insane cult-like following and worship. I don't want to play the game. I don't want to boot up my Xbox because it feels gross. We all agree that PC gamers are terrible people. Let's find common ground. You probably kept more viewers than playing. Oh, you're probably right, Kaganeko. Jen's my wife. I don't really need a next gen. Why don't you say the same thing about PlayStation fanboys? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. Back in the day, when I was primarily on my Xbox and I played a lot of Destiny, and I had a lot of PlayStation people come in, a lot of PlayStation, you'd call them PlayStation fanboys, right? They were nothing. They were nothing compared to Halo and Microsoft fanboys. Nothing. Not even remotely the same. You know what they would always talk about? Graphics. Graphical fidelity, because they had better looking games. That was like the worst thing I had to listen to. Oh, the games look better. Games look better. Yeah, that's not that big of a deal. They weren't accusing like the vice president of Microsoft for lying. They weren't accusing Microsoft of like manipulating and tricking their customers. Like that wasn't the narrative. The narrative was our games look better. The narrative was there's way more Sony PlayStations. There's 4 PlayStation 4s to every one Xbox. So their narrative was certainly one that was like very ego-driven, but it wasn't toxic. I'll take an ego-driven like fanboy over one that's just like conspiracy dreaming up toxicity. Like somebody's just lying. I don't have a lot of tolerance for dishonesty. I don't. It doesn't sit well with my stomach. It makes me sick. I don't have any tolerance for dishonesty, but somebody being like ego about it, like, yeah, we got more PlayStations and our games look better. Okay, like PC Master Race. Yeah, look at how awesome our games look. That's fine. Like, it's a little bit of a weird ego stroke to care about how good your games look because of the plastic box sitting in your living room. But that's not nearly as bad as the weirdness that I've had to encounter yesterday and today. I just don't get it. I'm like, what the actual, huh? Is Halo that dissatisfying that, like, you're in here grinding an anti-PlayStation axe? Like, that's more satisfying to you? You see what I'm saying? It's like, man, if your console is so great and the games are so great, you're spending an awful lot of mental energy proving to us and maybe even yourself that Sony is the devil. Like, if your console is so great, why would you need to say what you're saying? PlayStation fanboys are the worst? I don't understand. Okay. You think PlayStation fans worse? I don't know. Come sit next to me, Lo, and I'm on an Xbox. It's okay. I didn't care what you say about Master Chief. As long as you didn't say Infinite's lower than a 9 out of 10, we won't have a problem. We're too busy playing games. Right. Yeah. Like, you know what's funny? There's a lot of guys here that are super, super pro PlayStation, and you know who they like? You know who they like? They like Phil Spencer. I'm dead serious. There are guys in here that are diehard PlayStation fans, and they like Phil Spencer. They respect him. But then, I get these Xbox guys in here literally accusing what is I think his name's Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan's a liar. He's a liar. They manipulated their audience. The frick? What? What happened? What's going on? I'm so burnt out, I may give my PS5 to Brandon. I meme on the PlayStation all the time, but that's just me joking. I like PlayStation and I'm an Xbox fan, but PlayStation users are generally little crappers. That part I'm not joking about. Most not at all. You know what's funny is Creature warned me. He said, I don't know about Halo, man. I don't know about Halo. I said, why? He said, I'm telling you, you're going to experience it. He's like, Halo fans are weird. He's like, they're weird. And the Halo PvP guys aren't just weird. He's like, they're toxically weird. They're toxic and weird. It's like, I'm telling you, they're weird, bro. And I'm sad to say he's not wrong. I'm sad to report. I am sad to report that he's not wrong. You guys can be a little weird, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I tell you what it is. This is what it is. This is something I've been watching some stuff by Jordan Peterson, and he touches on it. And I just think that for some people, something becomes so central. It's like this centrality. It's this central causality in their existence that it's almost like a deity. It's almost like a deity. And so Halo and Master Chief and the Xbox is this central causality in your life with respect to gaming, that it's like a deity. You cannot touch it. It would be like if I went into like a Jewish person's home and like knocked their menorah on the floor. Oh, it would be so mean and so offensive and so wrong, right? And that's what people feel. There's this weirdness about Master Chief and Halo and the Xbox. It's like this religion. It's like a deity. It's like this odd cult-like. It's just an oddity. It's too central. You need to dethrone it. It's not worthy of what you're doing. It isn't. It isn't worthy of where you've placed it. You've got it on like a throne in your heart. It's just a game. It's just a gaming system. It's just a character in a game. And this is everywhere, by the way. This is everywhere, by the way. We saw this with the incredibly toxic, fandom in Star Wars. It's a similar thing. It's this centrality in their life. They're like orbiting around it. Like Star Wars is so important to them that it becomes like a deity. You just can't. And unfortunately, they don't see how it makes them a pretty bad and nasty and unpleasant person. Strongly believe people have default emotions that they feel most comfortable in. For some people, that is scorn, so they always look for something to look down on. They feel lost without it. I could say the same thing about God of War. People go crazy if you talk bad about God of War. No, Master Chief and Halo and Xbox fandom is a very, very different. It's very, very different. I've been doing this for 7 years, and I'm telling you, just Halo for very many people is just, I don't know. There's something different about it. I can't put my finger on it other than saying it's like this central causality, and that like it was the catalyst to them becoming a gamer. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like this happens with bands, right? Like the first album, it doesn't matter which album it is, but the first album that becomes the catalyst to you enjoying that band, it's almost always your favorite album. Not all the time. But it very often is true that when you hear about a band, and let's say they have like a four album discography, and you listen to one album, and that album is your catalyst into enjoying them, it generally ends up being your favorite because it's the one that got you into that band. So Halo and Xbox for very many people is this euphoric like catalyst memory of like that's why you became a gamer. And so when you look back, Master Chief is to be worshipped, revered, and respected. It's like, wow, it's a freaking game. What? I sold a business because in a large part Halo and the people who played it. It's a weirdness and toxicity that's hard to put into words. I have to ask, will there be gameplay soon? Maybe. We probably have time for about 45 minutes. We probably have time for a mission. Game Awards is tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll go live a little bit before 7 o'clock. Put a question in the queue. We don't use that all that often. I'll pull it up though, Ratchet. We used it a lot yesterday. In Spider-Man on Spectacular, one spray from an AR does half your health points. Is that unmitigatable damage? No. No, none of the damage in Spider-Man would be classified as unmitigatable because you're given audio and visual cues when the attack is coming, and they can be dodged, and perfect dodged for slow-mo. Perfect dodged with a button press for slow-mo and a web sling. All of the damage in Spider-Man is mitigatable. There's nothing in Spider-Man that is unmitigatable. When it hits you, does it do an exorbitant amount of damage? Yes, but that's because you're Spider-Man and not Batman. It's supposed to play that way. If you play Spider-Man like Assassin's Creed or Batman, you're going to hate it. You have to play as if you're Spider-Man. Always in the air, always agile, always dodging. You cannot... Spider-Man can't be very still for very long in that game. It doesn't work. You must embrace the way of the spider or you will die in that game. I think it is appropriately punishing. Appropriately punishing. You getting your ketchup and steak ready for Psychonauts 2 to win Game of the Year? No, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. Not even a little bit. You enjoy playing Spider-Man Stealthy? That is an alternative, but some of the rooms you can't do that near because once you start the base, they just start pouring out of the doors. Like, you can play Stealthy, but I think even you would admit this, there's a tipping point where stealth stops and the fight begins. They just come pouring out of the doors. You can't, like, go up and hide and start over and start picking them off one by one. Some of the places you can, but a lot of them you just simply cannot. It's a rumble. It's tough but fun. Well, $5 from Southern Prince. If you think Master Chief can beat Kratos, play the first 5 minutes of Halo Infinite. Oh, I don't think he was saying that. Yeah, Master Chief would not be able to beat Kratos. Master Chief gets the crap punched out of him in the beginning of this. Platforms are why I became a gamer. Nintendo, Sega, Sony. Maybe it's because the only thing the Microsoft platform had for the longest time was Halo. Yeah. It's very, very possible. It's very, very possible. That was their game. That's all they had for a very long time. It was like the best game. Do you like Halo? I think Halo Infinite is a very solid game right now. Not the multiplayer. I think the multiplayer's got a lot of work to do. They've got a good gameplay, but they need to figure out their desync and their lag, their battle pass, their store, and then the available games in the playlists. I think the campaign, from what I've played, is a solid 7.5 to an 8. It's a game worth playing if you like Halo or shooters. I think it's good. It's not a 9 or a 10 like the review outlets were saying. It has things about it that I think take points off almost right away. Just so I understand it, do you consider some of the dancer's moves in Dark Souls 3 unmitigatable? I believe there's a fabric of the fight of the dancer that has unmitigatable damage, because if she catches you with one attack, she gets to catch you with a bunch more, and I don't like that. It creates an element of stun lock where you get a bunch of unmitigatable damage. It's why I didn't like the final phase of Cinder. He had an attack that, like, if he catches you with one hit, it's a bunch of automatic damage. All of the damage that happens after that one hit's unmitigatable, and I don't like it. I understand. I get it. It's part of the game. It's part of the fight, but that's something that I have an issue with. Like, oh, I hit you with one, and the rest, wham, 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 wham. It's all this automatic junk. I also don't like the grab attacks. I think the grab hitboxes for the dancer are annoying. I also think taking half of my health bar because you grabbed me is stupid. You feel that way about the grabs in Dark Souls? A little bit. They can be dodged, which is how you mitigate it, but I don't like the fact that if you make a tiny mistake, oops, they got me, half my health is gone. I don't like that. I'm owning that, right? I don't like that. I'm not saying this is a fundamental design flaw. I wouldn't design the fight that way. I don't like the range of damage turning on a dime like that. It's like, oof, I got hit. Okay. Oof, I got hit. Okay. Oof, I got hit. Oh, okay, cool. There's a certain amount of damage I can take when I make mistakes. The idea that, like, oof, I got grabbed. Half your health. Oof, I got hit. hit. It's like, what? Huh? Like, the thing I like about the dancer is the art style and all of her false starts and trickery. I think is very, very cool. It's very tricky. She visually messes with you. Her rhythms are very odd at times, but I don't like those elements in those fights. I thought Pontiff Sullivan and Dragon Armor were and the Twin Brothers were my favorite fights. I loved those fights. Didn't like Cinder because of the scimitar form and the final form, and sometimes the ground would mess with input. Like, it just wouldn't register my input because there's just junk everywhere, and like there's milliseconds where the game thinks you're in the air. So I wasn't a huge fan of the Cinder fight, and I thought that the dancer was very annoying. Just want to drop in and say I had the same issue that you had in the first level where you fall and it triggers the checkpoint. Had to restart the whole mission. Oh, that's brutal. I'm so glad I got up out of there because that's pretty far in the mission. You're near the end. That sucks, Jay Vindictive. I guess I got lucky. That's the problem with Xbox. They haven't had an exclusive IP that defines the system in forever. I think that was one of the reasons they snagged Bethesda. They want Elder Scrolls. Only reason I've always owned Sony consoles over Microsoft is because I lean heavily into single-player games. And I've always been into Japanese video game culture. Yeah. Microsoft definitely doesn't do the 5-star single-player approach. Like the single-player games that land on PlayStation are just unbelievably good. They're so excellent. It's called Gears of War. Yeah, but Gears of War is on so many is on PC now, so like it doesn't really define the console. I guess it's always been on PC, so I don't know. It's never been really a defining console game because it's always been on PC. It's been a Windows game for a long time, since the first one. If Elder Scrolls 6 is Xbox exclusive, I'll be buying a Series X just for that game. Save your pennies. It was officially announced. We reported on it. It's been officially announced, Demetrius. We did a video on it. Phil Spencer used pretty strong language about it too, referring it to as like our property. Everything's on PC now for Xbox as well. Yeah, it makes it hard to have a game that defines the console. I thought the latest Gears game was an excellent addition to the franchise, and they iterated and expanded it in a good way. I thought so. Okay, so that's going to hit then. We need to go over and schedule the AMA. That's like 25 minutes, so that's going to go live at 3. It'll be done at 3:25, so 3:20. Then people get the 30-minute noti. Well, I'll just schedule the AMA for 3:50. 3:50. We do have another Say No to Rage story today. What are we calling this one? Okay. Do that. Hilly says, having fun with the Halo fans? It honestly wasn't, it wasn't that big of a deal. It really, really wasn't. It was, you know, it was, you know. It was two people that were, it was the Sony thing that was driving me a little crazy. It was like, it just gets to a point of absurdity that I just get irritated. Like, I'm just like, you're just saying things that are just not true. And like I said, I'm very sensitive to that. Like, I get very, very, the word gets so overused, but I get triggered. I'm like, golly frick, like, you're just saying stuff that isn't true. It was great for the stream. Yeah, I always applaud people that'll stay in the ring. I mean, I swing hard when that kind of stuff happens. Like, I do not pull my punches. I do not pull my punches. And it definitely got spicy. So like I said, I applaud people that will stay in the ring, because you're not just talking to some like person that's like, well, that's okay, that's your opinion, it's just no, like I take the gloves off sometimes. Wait, that's not the right video. There you go. Past 2 hours were great, but I did end up getting McDonald's. I'm sad I didn't get an apple pie. .360 was a great generation. I really want to go back to some of those games, like the last Castlevania. Different time. There's a different time. And like Eugene's saying, like, they really pushed them. You know? They really pushed them. It makes for great competition when everybody is when everybody's striving for greatness. Favorite headline from today: camels were ejected from a beauty contest over Botox use and other tampering. Pushed into the red ring of death. Right. Give me a second. Don't forget that the Say No to Rage story continues, and we will be doing the Video Game Awards co-stream this evening. We did get accepted as one of the official co-streamers of the event. They sent me like a press kit and everything, so that's pretty cool. I'll be right back. Make sure you're subbed. Make sure you've hit like, all the good things. Don't forget, if you're a fan of Halo, tomorrow night we'll be doing some Halo custom games here on the channel, and if you're a member, we're going to give you first dibs through the Discord. So if you're not a member yet, consider doing that. If you are a member here or on my other channels, and you're not in the Discord, make sure you do that. Make sure you're subbed. Make sure you hit like, all those things. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Sorry, I was looking for my, like, it's like a good cloth for cleaning my glasses, and usually it's on the coffee table. It's like when something like that gets moved, I was like, so confusing. You're like, where is it? Had to step away. Did the Halo fanboys go away? No, they're still here. Reports are saying that Sony is getting closer to having a Game Pass subscription that will have games from every generation of the PlayStation. However, if it operates like PS Now, it's been advised to avoid it. Yeah. I've not seen enough. We haven't really decided to delve. We've decided to not really delve into that topic just yet. We're kind of waiting. Remember the Halo fanboys? I missed it. We just got into a pretty obvious, tussle about, followed by they got stuck on the it was a lot of like Sony lied and misled their customers and all this stuff. And it was just a lot of sort of like stuff that we dealt with back when, if you remember, when we back in the day, we played. No, we didn't play. I'm sorry. We covered. We covered when I was like, Sony didn't lie. You're just like, you just can't read or whatever. Basically, the we believe in generations. So we got stuck on that, right? I don't know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a news music. Shut up. Shut up, Mo. And it got to the point where, I mean, I was just asking for... I was just asking for, like, proof, right? It was like, where's your proof that this happened, right? And they just couldn't find any. Like, people just get stuck on, like, the we believe in generations stuff. My wife's saying something. Oh. You were asking for facts and they had none. Pretty much. Like, that's what it ultimately comes down to. It's like, if you're, you know, if you're going to make claims like that, you know, you have to have the facts. Guys a bit desperate for the chewy bits. Yeah, I am. Okay, I'll just make sure everything's ready for the next streams. Like, I just get... I obviously am very... you know, maybe overly sensitive of, like, the idea that, like, you know, you can accuse somebody of lying or accuse somebody of something, and then when you're asked for evidence, you're just like, yeah, I don't really have any. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, there's a unique reason for me as to why that's just so irritating, because, like, that's the way that the internet works right now, and people, you know, pretty dramatically capitalized on that last summer, and it affected me in just a really just horrific way. So, like, I'm just immediately sensitive to that. Like, if you're gonna be like, this guy lied, I'm like, okay, can you show me, right? And the thing is to call my honesty into question is if, like, I won't criticize Sony. It's like when Sony wasn't giving people the free upgrade on Horizon Forbidden West, I got very aggravated. I was like, this is wrong. Like, you clearly made it seem as though if people bought these games, they would get their free update, right? And no such thing as oversensitivity to false narratives and making up facts. Right. If your president would lie to you, why don't you think that a game company will do the same thing? I'm sorry, man. I just, it's so hard to interact with people like you. You just speak in grandiose, broad, bombastic claims like you know, even if you could prove definitively that our president had lied to us or whatever, that has absolutely nothing to do with Sony as a company. It just has nothing to do with it. Like, let's say right now our president's name was James Williamson, and James Williamson was caught lying to the American public, right? That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. What did Sony lie about? Nothing. He's failed to show any credible evidence, interview, or video that they lied, and he just continues to say that they lied. Like, and I've told him that he's the liar. Like, that's the grand irony, is that you're the liar, which makes you a hypocrite. You're not like an ignorant, uninformed, unwitting person. Like, you're voluntarily saying things that have been proven false, and when asked for evidence have provided none. So it just makes you a liar and a hypocrite. Clip this for when James Williamson makes a miracle run and wins the presidency. Let's go, James Williamson. There's a special kind of irritability when it comes to a thought process like that. Okay, well, I've debated people for a long time on the internet. So there was a time where I had like a Zanga. Do you guys remember Zanga? I had like a Zanga blog. And I would debate theological things with, other people of my faith. This is an age ago. A literal lifetime ago, okay? And I noticed something, that there are two different types of people who will debate and argue on the internet. There are people who will debate from facts, quotations. They're an evidential arguer. They argue with lots of different pieces of things, right? And they tend to be the more thoughtful, and they tend to be the more challenging debate sparring partners, right? They tend to be more of a challenge. And then there are the people who tend to argue from emotion. And people who argue from emotion they exist only in the assertion. They assert things, and when you challenge those assertions, they just get very emotional, and then that either completely derails the conversation because they get nasty, or they get so unstably frustrated that they back out of the debate, or they just continue to parrot the same assertion over and over again, never interacting with your points, and eventually you just get exhausted, and they take that as a victory. They take that as a victory. Like you're like, look, I've established, these 10 different factual points, carefully argued, not just living in the assertion, and you've just ignored all of it. And then they just continue to ignore all of it. I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and those are the two categories that people tend to fall into. You have strong feelings about the way the critics was great with Halo with 9s and 10s, but you don't believe it? Well, I was arguing from a place of evidence. I was going in an evidential way to their own breakdowns of masterpiece, amazing. I talked about how, with the amazing claim of a 9 out of 10, it's supposed to be enthusiastically recommended. And then I read the review, and the review had all these caveats and warnings, and it didn't sound like an enthusiastic recommendation at all. Like I said, this is an enthusiastic recommendation. Oh, you want the best pizza in town? Downtown Impel Azeri's best pizza in town. That's an enthusiastic recommendation. Telling you, oh, that place on 5th Street, it's not perfect, it's good. That's not an enthusiastic recommendation. So the place downtown's a 9 or a 10. The place where I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's not perfect. That's a 7 or an 8. That's not an enthusiastic recommendation. I think I very carefully broke down why those scores did not make sense in light of the language that was used about the game. I thought I was totally fair in how I approached it. An English lecturer in my college class gave me words to live by. The minute you make the debate personal and you attack on a personal level, you've lost the debate. Right. Trolls were back out in force as soon as you use hashtag Bungie. It's got to make you wonder why that's their trigger point. Yeah, Valiant, I think some of those people I think at least one of them is one of the women on an alt, and I think some of them hate the fact that it's very, very apparent that the narrative is shifted, and nobody else will talk about it because the narrative is shifted. When the conference leaders, when the guys who run the conference all deleted their stuff, that was a pretty loud and clear message that this battle is over. We have lost this battle. We may have won the victory of like torching the dude's channel, but we've lost. This guy's fighting back, and no one is fighting him. They've all just deleted their tweets, and they're all just bowing out because they're all weak cowards. Like that's a sign, and you can sense it in these trolls and how they talk. There's like this fragility and this concern and this worry. It's like you're all that's left. You're an embarrassment. Like I love the fact that the public can look and see that the only people clinging to the lies are weird, awful, very clear troll accounts with like weird avatars and weird social behavior. It's like, You're great. You're evidence in my corner because you're a literal crazy person and anybody can smell it on you. No, I've not watched that clip yet. I watch on my phone. I don't necessarily want it on here. I didn't want to like play it on the Discord. I love it. I love that like mentally unstable people are the only people left coming to like hold the banner of like Lono's a bad guy. It's like anybody from the public, anybody who's not like a Destiny community member looks at that and thinks, this is a crazy person. It's like, that's why I was happy to interact with them. It's like, you don't even realize it. You look like a crazy person, so you make my case even stronger by acting in the way that you're acting. It's like, that's why I was happy to interact with them. Ordinarily, you wouldn't interact with trolls, but when they're so clearly mentally unstable and just stupid and insane, it's like, yeah, I'll interact with you. Because anybody from the outside looking in will be like, this guy's just calmly responding and speaking in fact, and you're acting like an imbecile. So... Oh yeah, that's a good part in today's video, Creature. That's a good one. That's a good short. Today's video for the Say No to Rage story, it's a spicy meatball. Did you post this as a preview anywhere? No, No, I did not. Today's video is a spicy meatball. Because it's about the purple platform, so I took the gloves off. Because I'm not talking about like a person. It's like I'm talking about an organization. Oh man, yeah. I bring the heat today in today's video. I didn't hold back. Yeah, in 9 minutes we're heading over. Talking about that. Yeah, Anthony, there's that one, and then there's a couple others. And it's so obvious that they're just trolls on alt accounts. They have like 0 followers. They're following like 0 people. It's like, they don't realize it. They don't realize it. It's like, I'm not playing your game. You're playing my game. You don't even realize that you're playing my game. I intentionally interacted with the one person because I recognized their username. I was like, this person messed with my chat and my mods. They went on forums and were trying to damage my business for 3 to 4 years. It's like, the pattern of behavior in you're a horrible person. Like, I was glad to put them on display. Because it's like, if you're the last bastion of support, if you're the last like little dwindling group of people willing to be like, Say No to Rage is a bad guy, then you are good for me, and you don't even realize it. That's how insanely crazy, 0 self-awareness you are. You're an actual crazy person, and I am happy to interact with you, because anybody from the outside looking in is going to be like, this story, this guy is clearly telling the truth. Like, nobody's contesting his claims, except for a couple of crazy trolls. I love how they said they weren't a bot account with their 1 follower. Yeah, that's also a bot account. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Zubair. My wife's getting hers on a weekend for the same reason. Because she's heard it can kind of knock you down for whatever reason. She's getting hers on like a Friday or something. Yeah, like the Japanese soldiers in the Pacific that thought the war was still going on. That was such an interesting story when I read about that. That was crazy. They were still in the woods, and they thought that the war was still going on. Just nuts. They had lost. They weren't connected to reality anymore. It was sad. Oh, you're getting it on Christmas Eve's, Hilly? Oof. Oof. I think my wife's getting it on Friday the 17th. So if it's bad over the weekend, she'll be okay and up and running for the holiday. How long after the war had ended? Hadn't it been like 5 or 6 years? Pretty sure it was longer than that. Yeah, I wanted to say 10 years. Was it 10 years? They had just been living in the woods. They thought the war was still going on. It was wild. So wild. And I think the way the story went, like, they couldn't convince them. Like, it was really, really hard to convince them that it was over. Like, it wasn't easy. It wasn't just like, come on. They had a hard time believing it. They had become, like, delusional and paranoid. Because, I mean, if you survive in that kind of an environment and you think that you're in danger, you know what I mean? I watched a doc where they were finding people hiding or unaware that the war had ended, ranging anywhere from 3 to 15 years after. That might be what we're talking about. Because it had been a while, and some of them just couldn't be convinced. Yeah, 10 years in a state of defense. Yeah, it's just crazy. You feel bad for them. That's awful, you know? That's awful. They found him in 1972. How long had it been then? Always wondered if that's where M. Night got the idea for the Village movie. No, the Village movie is almost the inverse of that. The Village movie is about, like, these people that thought culture was so damaged and so awful they needed to become extreme in their separation from it. They need 36 years. That is frickin' bonkers. That's insane. That's a dadgum lifetime. I just turned 40. They spent almost that amount of time out there. Oh, 26. 26 years. Still. Jiminy Christmas. That's insane. You actively take stock of all these trolls in the muck and the mire? No, Mantis. Let me be clear about something. I blasted Bungie very strongly on the date of their 30th anniversary. And some guy was like, I felt bad for you, but this is just petty. And I was like, petty? Is that what you think this is? Do you think I'm being petty by just boldly proclaiming the truth about that company and what they did? Okay. In any case, I blasted them hard with a video and just a tweet about what they did and how, you know, people should know. You're celebrating this company. They've done nothing to rectify the wrong. And I didn't even talk about the fact about being banned from the game. I didn't even talk about that. And the trolls came out of the woodwork. You know, and it's like 2 or 3 people that just go nuts. They just lose their freaking minds. You know. And a couple of them think that I'm, you know, barely surviving and my channel's dying because they look at presents. A couple of them think that, like, oh, you know, he only pulls 200 and 300 viewers because they don't understand how YouTube works. They also don't understand the perspective of, like, it took me 5 years to get to the point of where I was on Purple. And it was like my third or fourth year when I was averaging anywhere from 200 to 400 viewers. So like we're basically paced right now like year 3. So they don't understand, like, pacing wise, we're right in a great position, especially next year when YouTube does all of its live streaming stuff. So they just kind of came out of the woodwork because I took a shot. I mean, I took a shot at Bungie because I just don't care. It's like, I'm not scared of you people anymore. You don't have any power over me anymore. So there's no fear in me to like just go out there and, you know, declare the truth. All right, that's where we're headed. Click the link in chat. That is the next story, the next episode in the Say No to Rage story. It is about my ban from Purple. It will be followed by an AMA. Don't forget, come back here tonight for the Video Game Awards co-stream. I got approval to anybody can co-stream it, but I'm one of the official co-streamers. I went through their application process, so that's very exciting. So the link is in chat. It's also pinned at the top of the chat. I'll see you guys over there.